Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So Memorial Day was recent, it was like a month ago. And it was reminding me of this story of a minister on Memorial Day. He noticed a little 7-year-old boy, Alex. And he was out in the foyer of the church, and he was looking up at the plaque. There was a plaque with a lot of names and American flags, and he was just looking at it. So the minister went over and said, "Hi, Alex, how you doing?" And the little boy says, "Hi, Reverend. What are all those names?" And he said, "That's a memorial to honor those people we lost in service." And they both are looking at the plaque. And then Alex says, "So which service, the 9 o'clock or the 11 o'clock?" I don't know, I just read that. That was so funny. Humor is good for peace. So we began this month talking about we are chosen, that everyone is chosen, but that we have to choose to be chosen. And I asked you all to say at least once a day, "I am chosen." Have you been doing that more or less? Or has people been saying, "I am chosen"? Just a few. It's easy to forget as the month goes on. And there's a power to that. I hope you're experiencing some connection with your true self when you say, "I am chosen," because it is that part of our chant of remembering who we really are. I am chosen is that remembering. And then we talked about when we remember that we're chosen and we see things from that place, we see all the blessings that are in our world all of the time. We start to see with the eyes of gratitude and love. And then last week we were talking about from that place of chosenness, we can get taken down by life. Things are difficult and challenging, and there's something that the phoenix rising from the ashes. We want to rise up beyond our limitations and move into a greater and fuller self-expression. So as we're answering this call of knowing that we are chosen, or we're choosing to be chosen, choosing our chosenness, one of the ways that we can sustain it is through this beautiful quality of peace. And peace is neither the high of seeing all the beauty and great things. It's neither the lows. Carl Jung says you can only go as high as you go low. It's not about only thinking about those difficult times and pushing past our limits. Peace is a quality that's more even keel. Peace, when it's defined, the different definitions, but the primary definition that I kept saying over and over, it's the absence of conflict. It's the absence of disturbances. That when you think of a peaceful lake, there's no ripples on the lake. It's just a pure stillness. So it's neither high nor low. It's free from that. So how do we live our chosenness with our blessings, with the challenging parts, and at the same time remain this beautiful, peaceful essence of who we are? So the first thing I'd like to say for me, the way I understand it, is that I think it's almost impossible to feel peace if we feel out of integrity with ourselves. If there's some part of us that is operating in the world because it may fit in with our work environment, it may fit with our family environment, our community, our nation, our world, but if it's not in integrity with our soul, then we're going to feel agitated. We're going to feel that sandpaper of discomfort. I remember when I first came into this teaching, one of my teachers said this is one of the hardest teachings to enter into because it demands total responsibility for our spiritual journey. We don't put our responsibility for our spiritual journey on anyone else. Doesn't mean we don't have teachers. Doesn't mean we don't learn. Doesn't mean we don't get guidance from that inner space that Joel was talking about. When we get to that stillness, there comes this incredibly clear guidance from inside, but we still have to choose. We still have to make the choices. And that can be difficult because sometimes it's not always so clear. And sometimes we're not sure, especially in this world now where everything is available to us. All the different spiritual paths are available, all these different if you want to go with therapy, I mean, I went to a therapist in the 80s, and I just went because someone told me, here's a therapist. Now it's like the choices are huge. It's hard to feel at peace. Am I making the right choice? So we have to own our journey every step of the way. And the only way we can do that is to become intimate with our inner world and say, is this integrity with my soul? Is this path in integrity with my soul? And we live from that I am, the source of our being, the source of divine intelligence that is within each and every one of us. There's no more source of intelligence in you or you than there is in me, and there's no more in me than in you and you or anyone on this planet. We all have it, and we all have it equally. And so one of the things we also learn in our teaching, which is universal, I'm not saying we're special in this way, but it's just a principle that we're clear about is not only is the infinite love intelligence in us, it's in everyone. So we give other people their right and their space to make the choices that they feel that are in integrity with their soul. So peace, first and foremost, comes with integrity with ourself. And that also includes we're human beings. We have personalities. So sometimes I don't think I'm the only one who has this challenge, is I have different perspectives on things. I have very different parts of my personality. And so it can be challenging because I could be so passionate about something and saying it. In fact, I'm in this situation with two friends and we're talking, I've been very passionate, and I'm like, well, but the opposite's true too, and I kind of believe that too, and now I feel like I'm abandoning them because I'm like, well, I do believe that, but I also believe like the other side too, and it's like the how to live with these two different, and that's just outside, but inside I get in wars. Does anyone have inner wars, battles with yourself? Like one part of you really believes one thing, and another part of you believes, and not even believes, they're just different styles. I have two very different styles inside of me. There's one part of me that's very devotional, and there's a part of me that's very intellectual. They can sometimes be embattled. Then there's human stuff, all the human, you have anxiety, depression, jealousy, anger, whatever. There's a million of our, what we would call negative or lesser qualities, and then we have our strengths. And sometimes the strengths get embarrassed by our weaker side, so we push that away. And then we push away enough, and then it starts coming up even stronger because we're pushing it down. How do we be in a place with peace with all this inner stuff happening? Well, fortunately, I was just thinking about this, that I don't actually have to answer that question, because at the beginning of July, on Saturday, our movie night is Inside Out? Inside Out, which is all about all the different voices inside of us learning to become friends. So just go to the movie. When you read it, you don't want to read the book and you read the Cliff Notes. This is the Cliff Notes. The movie's the Cliff Notes. So the one thing is I was listening to Joel, and this is, I think, is part of our spiritual growth and evolution, is there was once an idea of transcending all of the good and the bad. He was saying, one of the things that Joel talks a lot about is that people definitely don't want bad things, but it's also the things that we want also limit us, and so we want to transcend it. But what I love about the way of peace, which I think of as we would call non-dual, is we include all of it. We don't have to repress any of it. We don't have to transcend it. We embrace it all in the I am. The way I look at it is like a big movie screen, and the movie screen is white. There's nothing on it. That's our true I amness. And then the entire story that unfolds on the movie screen, we include all of that, but we are never limited by that story. So our heart opens. I love movies because they always open, not always, but good movies will always open my heart. Really well written, but they'll show the bad characters and the good characters, and mostly nuanced characters who have a little bit of bad, a little good, and my heart opens. People I would normally judge that person, but now I'm really seeing their soul. That's to me what this presence does. It's just witnessing, and we're seeing the soul of everything that's happening on the screen. This is part of learning how to be at peace with everything that's happening. So we want to integrate. We want to be in integrity with ourselves, and we want to integrate, and a big part of that integration is compassion. So to know peace, we have to integrate, and we have to have compassion, because there's no final point. There will be something else that comes up and agitates us. There'll be something else that disturbs our peace, that makes the ripples. And we can't, if we just go, I just have to have a pure lake and never have a ripple. Well, even people who go off, so many spiritual teachers talk about this. Even if people go off and you're in a desert, you're going to have those ripples because it's inside of us. So this is the power and the need for compassion on the spiritual journey. We are all human beings, and this is a hard journey. There's so much happening inside and outside, so many different perspectives. The more we go on our journey, people who are drawn to the spiritual progressive world, we are so open to so many things that it gets confusing and agitating, and where do I belong, and what's my voice, and what's Spirit's voice, and what is my voice, and what is my parents' voice, and what is the spiritual teacher's voice, like what is real? And there's so much we could fight over, and that's okay. The moment we say it's okay and have compassion for ourselves and for others, we don't want to make other people into saints where they can't have human qualities of fear, of agitation, of, I don't know why I'm using that word agitation a lot today. Okay. Whatever. I can't even think of other ones now that I've said it. But whatever, the things that we think of as negative. We all have it. Every single person. As I've mentioned before, I had a professor, and he said, even saints weren't saints. Meaning, there's no one, Jesus was afraid before he got crucified. He wasn't like, oh yeah, I transcend all of this, and I feel no fear, and I'm just no, he was afraid. And he got angry. He was a human being. Be compassionate with yourself and with others. There is no way to know the peace that passes human understanding without compassion. So we have integrity to our soul. We have integrity to who we are, and we don't always know what that is, and that's where we get a little confused, and that's when we have compassion. Or even when we do know who we are, it can still feel like, I don't know how these two parts of me can live together. I was thinking about, Ralph Waldo Emerson says something along the lines of, consistency is, I don't know if this is an exact quote, but this is how I remember it. Consistency is the evidence of small minds. I love that so much, because that allows us to have different, like I can be a little bit different tomorrow than I am today. It's not that I'm a hypocrite. I'm saying all of us. It's not that we're hypocrites. It's not that we're two-faced. It's like I might feel something so completely different tomorrow than I do today. And to have the big enough space, a big enough screen of the I am that can include all aspects of myself. So integration and integrity I think of as being together, integration and integrity, and compassion for the constant trying to fit it all together. The third one is resilience. Spiritual practices help us stay resilient. Connecting with the I am and remembering who and what we are helps us to be resilient, because life is hard. And if we get thrown by everything that's happening in our own personal life, relationships, work life, money, finances, health, if we get thrown by other people's stuff, if we get thrown by what's happening in our country, if we get thrown by what's happening at our work, we're never going to know peace. We are never going to know peace. The way we're going to know peace is by continually returning to the I am of our being every day. That's the power of spiritual practices. I was listening to a talk about peace. Jeremy Kuzebek, I believe his name was. And it was a very sort of intellectual talk, so it didn't really resonate with me in terms of, I don't know, like peace. He had a whole number system, and there's these things, and you put numbers, and then you divide by 5, and blah, 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 and that's how much peace you have. I'm like, that's an interesting way to get there. So I wasn't listening. I was listening to him sort of in the background, but then it caught my attention. So he was starting a new business with his wife around this peace project and helping people find what their number is, or numbers are, I don't know. And they went to Cancun just to take a break for a vacation. And they had this whole wonderful adventure planned, and when they got there, a hurricane was coming. And so they were in a car driving to the hotel to hunker down for the hurricane, and they were hit by a drunk driver. And he said it was a nearly fatal accident. His intestines were cut in half. He broke so many, just his whole body was just like destroyed. And so, obviously, that was not part of the plan. But he said the most amazing thing happened because he and his wife worked so much with this quality of peace. There was a resilience. He said, I can't explain it, but he said it was their spiritual practices, their spiritual life, that in the midst of this horrifying accident where he almost lost his wife and had to have so much pain as he's rehabilitating, he said this peace just enveloped us every step of the way. It wasn't like devastation. It doesn't mean he didn't have feelings or it wasn't hard, but underneath was this incredible peace. The only thing that can help us in our own life, but especially what's happening in our world and in our country, because we're all part of it. No one gets to escape. When people say, I don't watch the news, there's an energy around. We whether we're conscious of it or not, it's happening, and there's a lot of fear. And I've been talking to people, and I realize when I bring it up, people go, oh, yeah. There's fear. We don't always talk about it, but it's there. The only way that fear is not going to completely overwhelm us is if we continue to do our spiritual practices by ourselves and with each other, to remember who we are and remember that that is greater than all the conditions and circumstances that are out there. That the source of all life, first cause, pure spirit, is the source of all creation. So however powerful the world circumstances, and not just politics, climate change is really big too with all the heat and oh my gosh, and there can be just total terror. And I was talking even to some people in the younger generation. There's concern in their life, like this climate, because if you just listen to media and they're on their phones all the time, it is constant. We are falling apart. Everything is getting worse. Climate change, look at this election, look how divisive we are, look how much hate there is. We've got to do our spiritual work, and not just do the spiritual work. The spiritual work is saying all of that, as powerful as it seems, is nothing in the face of pure spirit. And so if we are going to walk in any type of peace, I'm not saying perfect peace, I'm not saying a perfect clear lake where we don't have ripples or even waves, but that peace is so big that it can handle the waves. It can handle the ups and the downs, because that white screen, that I amness of our being, is unmovable. It is solid. It is always there. Even if our whole planet got decimated, it's still there. We're still there. It is impossible to kill an eternal soul. When we walk in the power of that awareness, we become resilient and not just falling apart when things aren't happening the way we want them to happen. So peace comes from integrity and integration. Peace comes from compassion. Peace comes from resilience. And finally, peace comes, this is the most exciting one, from repetition. The title of today's talk, Radical, Outrageous, Ever New, Ecstatic Peace, was kind of a joke. Because peace just is. We don't have to add on all these adjectives. And one of the things for those of us who have been on this spiritual journey in the spiritual progressive world, because there's so much energy going out there all of the time, people are trying to sell. There's so many people on the spiritual path, and they want to have students, and you want to get people interested. We throw out the most dynamic adjectives we can to get people attracted. It's radical forgiveness. It's not just forgiveness, it's radical forgiveness. It is outrageous. It is gorgeous. It is ecstatic. It is totally new. But the beauty of knowing these absolute qualities, that they've always been here through all time. There's nothing new about them. They are ever present. And our spiritual practices don't need all those ecstatic things, because the deeper we go, the more pervasive it covers our whole life. It becomes year after year after year as we do these spiritual practices, everything becomes a part of that. We don't need the big adjectives. In fact, most spiritual teachers say take them away. What we don't want to do is add on. That actually is a distraction. That's an illusion. What we want to do, the entire spiritual journey is about letting go, letting go, letting. I mean, that whole beautiful, beautiful song. And St. Francis, let go, stop trying to get, give. We don't have to hold on. Give, because it's all already there. The peace is already there. We don't have to get peace. We are peace. We don't have to get our true self. We are our true self. We couldn't be not our true self if we tried. I love that I remember Ramana Maharshi, and I've mentioned this before. He said, you can't help but live your purpose. Stop trying so hard to live your purpose. Just be you, and you're living it. There's no magic, you've arrived. This is part of owning your own journey. There's no arrival place. The whole journey is about all our discoveries every step of the way, and they change and they go back and forth, and we're up and we're down, and we have this part and this. But all of that is part of who we are. We are not like this little thing. We are the vast, infinite screen of creation, right? And the repetition is to continue to bring ourselves back, to bring ourselves back. It's not exciting. Shunryu Suzuki has in his book, one little section is, it's not exciting. And I love that. By the way, if you have a regular spiritual practice, for me, Zen Mind, Beginner Mind is one of the best books there are. Not that you have to be a Zen practitioner, but just about spiritual practice. It's so, I started reading through it for today's talk, and I ended up reading through the whole thing again, because I love it so much. Because it's not fancy. It's just the isness of life, the peace, the repetition. As he said, we keep doing it. And this is again goes back to our agency. Community helps us. No question, that's why we're here. Teachers help us. Classes help us. We'll be honoring our classes today. And we all have the agency to do this on our own. When we start, I hear sometimes from people when I'm not in classes, I forget to do the work, or I don't do the work unless I have other people. But we have to own our own journey. Do your practices, even when no one else is around, even when you're home by yourself day after day after day, and you don't have a group that you're with. That's okay. Do your spiritual practices. No excuses. If you want to know peace, especially now, if you want to be in integrity with your soul, if you want to have the profound compassion for yourself and other people, you want to walk with a soft heart and compassionate heart. If you want to walk with an incredible resilience, the power of the one presence and the one power, repeat. Do your spiritual practices and repeat it day in and day out and day in and day out. And when it's good and when it's bad, as he would say, you take the one seat in the midst of all of it. No matter how bad your spiritual practices are, you take the one seat in the midst of it. No matter how much your mind is going, you take the one seat. No matter what's going on at your job, you take the one seat in the midst of it. No matter what's going on in your relationships, you take the one seat in the midst of it. No matter what's going on in your finances, you take the one seat in the midst of it. No matter what's happening in the world around us and the fear. I have fear. I'm totally owning I have fear what's happening in the country. The rights that are being taken away. It's horrifying and terrifying to me. I have to at least take that one seat and know that there's something that is more powerful and greater, and not get caught up that the power is out there, but it's within each and every one of us, and it's in me every time I sit down to remember who I am. The peace. So we'll just take all of those adjectives out. Radical, outrageous, ecstatic, ever new peace. And we'll just say, let's just live peace, because it's already who we are. Let's pray. It's already who we are. That we open our hearts and our bodies and our minds and our souls to this moment. We consciously recognize anything that's happening inside of us right now, whatever thoughts might be having, thoughts that we might claim as good, thoughts that we might say is bad, feelings that we might say are good, and we just let them be. We don't judge them. We just let them be. We take the intensity and the attachment to our judgments and just let it be. And as we're also notice our physical self. Just whether we got a lot of sleep, whether we're hungry or not hungry, whether we're going to eat afterwards, all of those things, the people sitting in front or behind us online, just all of it, we just let it be. We don't judge it as good or bad, we just recognize it. We recognize this beautiful space, the lighthouse space that is holding all of us. And we're aware of that as part of our I am, as part of our movie screen right now, whether we're online or in person, we're all part of this story right now. And all of us have this inner connection with each other right now. That even as we're having our own individual experience, we have a collective experience happening in this room and online with all the beings all over the planet who are also remembering who and what they are. We are infinitely connected in this internal world, in this beautiful, harmonious love. Even when we can't see it, we know that we know that we know that it's there. When we are remembering who I am, it includes all creation. And so we are both an individual as this creation, and we are both the collective. And so in the vastness and the glory of this living presence, we claim and accept for all life peace, where there is no conflict, where we embrace everything with an open heart, where our hearts are open into infinity, and we just say yes. We open and we open and we open and we open and we open. And there, in all that infinite openness, is the peace that passes all human understanding. And in deep abiding gratitude that this is who we are, here, now, and forever, we let this be, and we say together, and so it is. Amen and amen.
I walk in God.